Hit 'em with that flavor.
Gold all in my skin, God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle, you touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen, why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunta. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now.
That's
See
right.
a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy.
Real slick.
I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle, you touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle, you touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got... Hello, everyone. I'm Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your Daily Vitamins. And so today I have some very special guests on here. We're going to be talking about mental health in our community and how it is often just ignored due to stigma. But they have recently suffered a great loss in their family due to this condition. And so they're here to talk about it. And so, Tina, if you all could go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hello.
Grand Rising Queen, you know me, straight no chaser with the Queen. And this is my hubby over here. You know, he always be in the back in my videos. And
Yes.
Quincy McKay.
Well, you know, we already know you.
Okay. Well, hello, Quincy and Tina. I want to welcome you all. And I also want to tell you how much I appreciate you for being brave enough to come on here and speak openly about your story and to share it with everyone so that we can help someone else. So tell us a little bit about what happened or why you're here exactly.
Okay. You want to talk?
Well, basically, I'm here just to say that, mental health is real and it exists. A lot of us, until it really hits home, we may ignore it. But, and I just want to bring people to be more aware of that, and there's limited resources for mental health.
Very much so. Absolutely, it is. And that's a shame because with all of the money that our government spends on things that don't even concern us, like wars in other countries, we have no more mental health facilities, very few. And there's people roaming around on the streets with mental health issues, people who have fought and served in the military who have mental health issues. And then the sad thing is that when we have people in our family who are in mental health crises, and then we have to call law enforcement sometimes because they may become violent or combative, and we don't know what to do with them because we're not trained in it. And then the police get there and they're not trained in it. And a lot of them, in fact, are discriminatory against people who have mental health issues.
And then the thing about mental health, what we've been talking about is a lot of Black people. We have never held. We're starting it now. You see the trend. It's not a trend, but we were taught about mental health in our immediate families. It was frowned upon to go
Right.
to a psychiatrist or go
Mm-hmm.
somewhere to a therapist because you don't want to seem crazy. But it's the
Right.
shame of this white supremacist society that we live in. And just like you said, the resources are limited. We're
That's
in
right.
Alabama, and Alabama closed down in 2012, closed down
Mm-hmm.
their mental health facilities all over. And I
Mm.
remember my son, which is in prison now, and I know that uh, we've talked about him with his mental health, and it could have been worse. And instead of getting help, he's sitting in prison because they shut down the facilities, and the governor there wants to build $2 billion prisons, the biggest prisons, and then in Georgia, people are building a top cop. Like we got billions going to Ukraine. Everything is going to everywhere, but to
That's
help
right.
us because they want to produce criminals so that we can keep playing this dang on game
Mm-hmm.
called make them richer while we
That's
are
right.
really, really, really suffering. And this is
That's
a
right.
wake up call in reality.
That's
Exactly.
right. Because this is being experienced by you and your family in real time. So, with that all being said, Quincy, your brother Alex recently took your mother's life.
Mm.
Yes.
And prior to this, can you tell us how was your brother's relationship with yourself and your mother? How also did he react to other members of the family?
Well, it started out as it was a gradual process, you know what
Over
I'm saying,
years.
over years. I mean, little things that I guess you may say you don't pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
It's maybe weird behavior at some point. See, don't be consistent. He may be straight for 4 or 5 months, and but something happens that's out of whack,
Mm-hmm.
and it just start progressing like that, and it just got worse where he became very
He
um
argumentative, and then
argumentative and aggressive towards, at times aggressive toward family members, and his ambition or whatever, just, he didn't want to do nothing. He wouldn't even take care of self. So,
yeah, he had quit. When I met Quincy, which was well when we got together, which was over 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
when he came in the house one time and he was blaming Quincy for some stuff when I first met him.
Mm-hmm.
And as time went on, he started. Then you say he quit a good job. He had,
yes.
they have a good family.
That,
Farm work, everything, and he just started stop. He stopped helping the dad.
right. Quinn, you come in on something before, I mean, at the beginning about the signs.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That's one of the things. The signs are always there,
Right.
so
Right.
you got to
So
take heed to the signs and take them seriously.
Hmm.
that's right. So he basically started becoming combative, argumentative, hostile, and then also unproductive to the point where he didn't even want to go to work.
Yeah, he years went by. He was living. The parents and them, they have lots of property. They farm, just nice family, and
Mm-hmm.
he's always helped his dad with the houses and stuff, and just doing stuff around. He was staying with the parents, and then it got so bad where they was kind of like didn't want him staying there, so they put him in another house.
Mm-hmm.
So like he basically didn't have to pay rent. Then his sister really was trying to help them all the time to look out for them. So the family,
Mm-hmm.
when they say black families don't, they act like black men don't do nothing. Dad provide house, they provide food,
Mm-hmm.
electricity. Quincy them try to talk to him. They tried to give him all the family support and constantly taking him to psychiatrists.
Okay. Now, were there certain triggers that seemed to get him riled up, or set him off? Were there certain things that would be said or, things that would occur that you think may have triggered him in some cases?
It was more of entitlement, I believe. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he was thought something was owed to him.
Hmm.
Most, what I'm saying. So I don't know if that can be attributed to his mental health or not. I don't think so. I
Okay.
I wouldn't attribute that to his mental health, his entitlement. But
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Probably, I would say that maybe the entitlement, you think perhaps that came from everyone doing things for him, you know, simply because you all were trying to be helpful and on those things, but perhaps he took it as if, oh, I'm entitled, you all owe this to me, I can get people to do things. Or maybe he took on that type of attitude because everyone was, working towards helping him to do better.
What
Um, I
he
was
was entitled
he
before
was
that.
entitled
Oh,
before
he
that. I mean,
was.
Oh
Okay.
put it like this.
yeah.
Put it like this. I wouldn't say that we. It was. I could say just say a couple of family members kind of enabled him.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But everybody
Mm-hmm.
wasn't, like that.
And let me say this: his
Mm-hmm.
mama was older, so she had
Mm-hmm.
younger children. So he has a younger sister, and so because Alice is only 30 something, right? He's
Mm.
only 30 something, so she's a older. So that was her baby boy. So he
Right.
was, and so with him being like Quincy being older out the house after they grew up, but he stayed with the parents, so he felt entitled because you got a free house, you got this, so you help work around the houses, you work around the
Right.
farms, you're giving. So, but instead of him looking at it as in my parents worked hard and gave me a life and giving me stuff, and he do stuff for him, he felt like he just kept acting like they owed him more.
Like they owed him something.
Right.
That happens with a lot of times when with families who are well to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens a lot of times when children growing up don't really have to struggle because the parents have already done the struggling for them and built,
Mm-hmm.
a successful lifestyle. That happens a lot. So I get
And you
that.
don't realize it because like you would think, and that's what I used to tell Quincy when we met, is like your family is blessed because a lot of
Yes.
black families don't they, and I'm pretty sure Quincy didn't realize it, like you never have to worry about a roof over your head. They know how to farm.
Mm-hmm.
They, if they didn't know how to go to the grocery store, they know how to get their food off the land,
Right.
whether it's hunting and stuff. And so they were really blessed, and he didn't, he just took advantage of that.
Yeah. He just didn't
Very
appreciate it.
very
Exactly.
manipulative.
Mm.
Exactly. And then that day
Mm-hmm.
that it happened with the mom, his dad and them had a good day. They said that day they was doing some stuff, and she just happened to go by there that day to tell him to come by the house so she could cook him dinner, as she
Mm.
always does. She's
So
gonna always
still,
feed you.
still doing something nice when this happened.
Mhm.
So now let me ask you this. So his relationship with your mother, Quincy, would you say it was a good relationship prior to all of this then?
Yes, I
It
mean,
sounds like it.
yes,
Mhm.
yes. I mean,
Okay.
When he used to act up, she would be the one to come get him, and then he started changing on her
right,
later. Go ahead.
Flipping. Okay. Now
Right,
let
right.
me ask you this. You all said this happened over a period of years.
Mhm.
Um, how long do you feel like he was plagued with mental health issues? Just an estimate.
uh, 10,
Maybe.
Maybe
10,
10.
10 to 15 years.
You
I could
think?
say, yeah, because I say it was a progression.
Okay.
It went from like, you know, a progressive. So it
Didn't just
started
happen
out little.
overnight. Right.
No,
No,
it didn't happen
it didn't happen
overnight.
overnight.
Because
Mm-hmm.
when I met Quincy, with like I said, when we got together over 10 years, that's when Quincy told me what happened. That's when he had just started acting weird. But me, with having more outside street experience, I was telling
Mm-hmm.
him something is not right, and I know that they
Right.
wasn't used to that. And when you have family that is like you say, that's blessed going to church, you
Mm-hmm.
think they didn't understand this, and
Right.
they never had to deal with it. So he just started doing little stuff, and the mom would be the one come get him, and I was telling Quincy then, like, something is not right. And so when you start from with me, that's when he started. So we know at least the past 10 years has just been
Okay, so at least a
progressive.
decade. Well,
Mm.
so now what were some of the first signs? Now you did say that he would be hostile, argumentative, and things like that. What were some of the little things that started even prior to that, if you can recall? Like, was he, for example, isolating himself? Was
Yes,
he having feelings of low self-esteem or insecurities? Unable to maintain healthy relationships with women that he dealt with. Were things like that going on?
At the end.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
yes.
brother.
He was involved. He had a relationship. You know, he was
For a long
involved
time.
for I say 5 6 year relationship with an individual, and she just got to the point to she said she just couldn't deal with it anymore. And, you know,
Mm,
that's when he came back home, and
Because
okay.
he was living off with her.
that's when things
Okay.
really escalated
Yeah.
Mm,
after
I
he
can.
came from the relationship and he moved back home, and he felt, I mean, entitled even more.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but he was fighting before he moved back home. Remember? Then he was still when he moved back home, he would go back and forth to her, like like you thinking that nobody, you thinking he having relationship problems. You could be
Right.
out of whack
Right.
because you have a relationship
Yeah.
problem. But then he started fighting people. Now he started fighting neighbors and people in the street, and
Mm.
he was doing a lot, and a lot of people was not hurting him because of the mom and
Because
the
of his. Okay.
dad.
Now, when did you all decide to take him to a psychiatrist, and how long would you say that he was getting counseling?
Well, you know, we went through the system of, you know, they had him evaluated, mentally evaluated.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that we done that about 2 or 3 times.
For the
Mm.
past three, I think the past
Last past
3 to 4
5 years,
years,
yes.
the before they had been trying to get him help because they had asked me about helping. So I know that it's been physically, like actually trying to sign him over to commit him. It's been the
Mm-hmm.
past 3 to 4 years,
Yes.
Okay.
and
It's
and with that, um they got petitions. It's been like about 3 to about 4 years. They have been taking the initiative to try to do everything they could do
mm-hmm.
to get.
Now in the state of Alabama, do they have it to where you can, you know, have someone committed, or not committed, but have them to get counseling, whether they agree to it or not, or does the person have to agree to get some type of therapy? Because sometimes the family members can have them either committed to somewhere where they can receive counseling, get help, or whatever. But in some states, the person has to be a willing participant.
Well, in Alabama, it's basically left up to the judge. I
Okay.
mean,
Because the family could go
you
down there and
go
sign
down
a
there.
petition to have him
When I
committed.
say evaluate it,
Okay.
that's what they do. They go down,
Okay.
and then it's left up to the judge on what the judge and the doctors basically. Basically, it's the doctors. The judge gonna do what the doctors recommend.
Okay.
What happened? They'll put them on there. You can have them committed, but they do it everywhere. That 72 hour
Right.
hold
Right.
it's
Mm-hmm.
common. Anybody that's listening, anybody that have people that have dealt with mental health, it's a joke. They keep
It
them
is
down
Mm-hmm.
there for 3 years. They give them some medication.
not 3 years,
Based, I
three
mean,
days.
3 days. I'm sorry, 3 days. I'm thinking that 3 days. It's a 72
Mm-hmm.
hour evaluation, and then next thing you know, they let them out. The doctor put them on medicine. They ask them certain questions. Who's the president? Do you know your name? They ask them questions anybody know. These people
That
know.
anyone could answer.
And yes, and then if that's okay, then the doctors say, well, there's nothing wrong with him. So these doctors were constantly telling them nothing wrong with him. But then when you commit them for the 3 days, and they do something outrageous, they
Mm-hmm.
supposed to have they have court, but they have court in the hospital. This is why you would never see these type of court cases out in the regular court,
Right.
because it's
Right.
in the hospital down in some room or wherever they have set aside. And then the judge hears all this, and the judge will say, okay, nothing wrong, send them home. Now you got a pissed off person who feels like nothing is wrong with them. They send
Mm-hmm.
them home to take their medicine on their own.
Right. Like they're gonna be responsible to take their medicine, and then
Mm-hmm.
what happens is
And they
this.
get come home pissed with you for
Right.
locking them up, and it's a
Right.
go ongoing
Right.
cycle for years
Now that was a main issue
with
that
him.
that triggered it because he always felt
Mm.
like mom and dad or us as a family was trying to lock him up and take his life away.
And he had
Mm-hmm.
said he was getting going down there, and it's not jail, but they don't. That's why we were saying the system, they don't do anything. It's like a joke. They make money off insurance or out your pockets, and
Mm-hmm.
then all of a sudden, like I told them how can you say that a person is stable enough to take their medicine if they've repeatedly not taking their medicine, but
Right.
you still say that they schizophrenic or whatever you want to call them,
Mm-hmm.
diagnose them with, and then is there this person is schizophrenic or whatever the diagnosis is, and now you send them home with the responsibility to
to
take
take their
their
medicine.
medicine.
Right.
It- it's
Now,
crazy.
now, what kind of medications do you remember or know what kind of medications they were giving him specifically? And was it more than one?
I don't know.
We don't
You
know
don't
But
because
know.
he
I
had
could tell you, I know that most of the time I worked in the same hospital at one point on the mental health
Mm,
ward. I worked there, and it's to me, it's just they always give them trazodone to sleep or whatever,
mm.
and I think it's Seroquel,
Seroquel.
and things like that.
Seroquel. Seroquel, isn't that more? I know someone who was on that. Seroquel,
It's
that's
more like
more
a
of like a
mood
sedative,
stabilizer,
like a
and
sedative.
yes,
Right.
it's kind of you supposed
Relaxes
to
you.
take it when you sleep.
Right. Yes. I know someone who was taking that. Okay. They had mental health issues as well. Okay. Now, so did the family ever have a need to report Alex to police because maybe he was being violent, making threats, or any such
All the
things?
time. That
He
what
did
led
a
Mm,
to the
lot
evaluations.
in the last couple of
right.
years. He really started, to me, I call it this. In the last couple of years, he started basically stalking his parents.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Now,
it
was
does.
this because perhaps they'd asked him to leave and they didn't want him there any
No, he
longer?
had like the past couple of years, he was living in the house that they gave him
They didn't
rent free.
they didn't ask him to leave. They just gave him a house to
They just
live
gave him
in
a house
Right.
to
to
live
get him
in.
away from them.
And then after
So
a while, that love the mama would had, she started backing away and really he just started stalking them. He would come. His dad have antique cars and they have cars,
mhm,
and he would come and flatten the tires, and we know it's him. Cause see, the police always saying, you know how they play this game. Well, you didn't see it.
you
Nobody
didn't
didn't
see
see
him.
this. Nobody didn't this and that. You can't lock them up and stuff. You can't really press charges. And then with the acting up part, when they try to evaluate them and put them in for his own good, there's a
Hmm.
whole law where they say you were breaking their constitutional rights. That's why they can't fully commit them. So the law is just the law is like a hamster wheel. You
And
get nowhere.
Wow.
another thing was I didn't agree with was when the doctors they never really talked to the family to see, you know,
Yes,
they can be very manipulative. The
Hmm.
people with mental health issues.
yes, they
You know
know
what
the
I'm saying? They
system.
know the system. And
Right.
the doctors never talk to the family members, to actually see what's going on and how they react to them. So
So they're
when they
just.
right, so when they release him, he
Hmm.
has all this anger towards the
And
family.
And mind you, the
Resentment.
police, he
Right.
had been doing stuff in the neighborhood, in the
Hmm.
community. So he be getting arrested. He done went here. He hit people with sticks. He fought almost the whole neighborhood. So you would think between the police and the doctors, he's been in jail. They let him out. You would think between the police and his behavior in the streets and the reports that somebody would take responsibility, but they play this and say he needs to be somewhere. But when you close down hospitals, you say you have nowhere to put him. And
Right.
basically, his mom wanted him to have help, but basically they wanted to make him
A
a
criminal.
criminal, not a
Right.
mental health person. And
That's
that's
what it
what the
sounds
world has,
like.
well, the U.S. has come to.
And basically, when you
Mm.
look at, I know the state of Alabama, we have no mental health institutions, maybe one. That's
Hmm.
just like they close them all down. That's just like if they closed all the cardiologist places down, because
Right.
mental health is
Exactly.
is is real. It's a
What?
sickness,
That's
and
right.
if you ain't got doctors
If
and
you
you
ain't
ain't
got
got
nowhere
no
to
help,
get treatment,
the place is
Hmm.
prison. That's what they want.
it,
That's how the system is set up now, and we need
Unfortunately,
to
yeah.
do things to try to change that. To change it, I feel.
Mm.
and then he's also saying that Alice, even though a lot of people have mental health, it
Hmm.
doesn't mean that it still gives them a right to
Right,
commit a crime.
right. There's no
Exactly.
excuse for
That's
that.
understandable.
There's no
Now,
excuse for that.
right, absolutely. And then sometimes the police have been known to tell families of people who have mental health issues that they can't do anything because they haven't actually committed a crime.
And that's the part with Alice. They said,
Exactly.
did he? This is their exact words. Did
Hmm.
he hurt or hurt? or basically kill anybody. No, no, no. And so you can't help. So now when he does, okay, now y'all have him in your jail. Now y'all making money. When he go to prison, he's going to make money for the prisons.
That's
Now
right.
he did something. It's just, it pisses us off. Well, it pisses me off. And
Mm-hmm.
it pisses the family off because his sister and them, their family is a quiet family. But I talked to the sister and them. They're pissed off and they're trying to take their anger towards the system because it's
Right.
ridiculous.
Yes.
Because this likely could have been prevented had other
It could have
measures been
been
It
taken
could
by
have
law
prevented.
been
The
prevented.
enforcement
ball was dropped.
and by the doctors. So let me ask you this. So how was Alex growing up and how was he, prior to him developing mental health issues?
He was grown raised in a very religious family, so he had a very religious background, and
Mm-hmm.
That was his personality.
his personality. Alex was a very humble person. I mean, I see the change. From
Yeah.
I guess from the time that I left home, he was maybe a teenager or getting to
Mm-hmm.
be a teenager, and I left home and got married or whatever, and I was away for a while. So when I
Mm-hmm.
came back, and I could see a change in him. So, but his background, I mean, as early in his early ages, he was
Mm-hmm.
very humble and very a jolly person, happy person.
So this was totally out of character for him, and that's why you knew that something was not right.
Mm.
Now, so let me ask you this. Had Alex ever at any point been involved with any type of drugs, or did he have an alcohol problem, any type of substance abuse issues
Substance
prior to
abuse,
his
yeah, yeah, I could
At the
say that
end,
at the
now at the
end,
end when
but
he
not
started acting up, that's when we started hearing that he started using drugs. But Alex was
Mm,
already having mental weirdness before we heard about the drugs. But yes, in the last years we started hearing that he was doing drugs, but I never seen Alex do drugs or whatever.
mhm.
So but that was the rumors. That's the rumors now.
Okay, and the reason I ask is because sometimes substance abuse and mental illness go hand in hand
Yes.
yes.
because these drugs have psychological effects on the mind.
Hmm.
Now, let me ask you this. So,
Did one woman didn't they say somebody gave him drugs or was that not him?
I don't.
No, no. Go ahead, Queen.
hmm, that could have been the case.
Yeah.
Um, okay, now, how was his relationship with your parents prior to him becoming mentally ill? Was he like a loving son with them? Did they sometimes have arguments, disagreements? Well, every family does, but more specifically, how would you say his attitude was towards your parents?
Um, like I said, everything was a progression. I mean, at first he was, your regular loving son, but in over time, period of time, it just got worse. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
It went from he being respectful to him just being disrespectful,
Mm-hmm.
having no respect at all. But it was a process. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, before that he was respectful because he didn't really start getting disrespectful to these last couple of years. But before that, like his dad fixes on houses, used to cut hair. He was always, from my understanding, he was always with his dad and family. That's why he lived with him. That's why when he leave, he come back home. He was actually living in the house with them
Mm-hmm.
until he started acting like Quincy said, like he started acting different. But before that, he was always with his parents.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now the woman that he was living with, was he ever violent with her when he started having these issues like domestic violence? Were there any instances of that?
I have no. I didn't know. I had no
Mm.
Okay.
incident.
Yeah, because whatever it happened when she called, and then she started calling because, like you said, he used to stay away with her. But
Mm-hmm.
whatever it was, she said that whatever it was that triggered it last time, she was saying that she loved Alex, but she can't be with him. I think she started. So
Okay.
we don't really know what
So
started
she
what
didn't get into the
happened.
specifics.
Yeah.
So on the day that he took your mother's life. Just walk us through if you can, Quincy.
I can't.
You can.
I
Okay.
don't want to relive that.
Yeah, I
I
don't blame
mean,
you. Okay. So,
basically, I just got a phone call. I can tell you what. How I'll tell you. I was going to the store
mm-hmm,
to get something to eat, and I got a phone call telling me I need to come home. And it's so funny. At the time I got the phone call, I was getting being pulled over by the police because my tag light was out. So I had
mm-hmm,
to deal with that situation and people on my phone. And when somebody calls and tell you, well, it was my sister. She called and like, baby, you need to come home. When somebody tells you that, it can't be good. So
right.
And then he called me, and then I I started getting the calls, and as he got the calls, I I had heard, and it shot me, but he was driving, and then we switched over driving because he was like, baby, I gotta go home. They saying something wrong with mama. And then my daughter um told us to pull over to a gas station, and she's told me to go in the bathroom by myself. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what she started telling us.
Wow.
So,
Well, I'm sorry again for your loss. My condolences to your family. I know this is very difficult, and I'm quite sure it's still um fresh because wasn't that long ago. It was just what 2 weeks ago,
yeah, maybe this be the third
this
week.
is the third week. This
the
is the third
third week.
week.
Okay, so have you spoken to Alex since this all happened? Since he
No,
was arrested?
no, I don't care to right now
Okay.
at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
We see them. We had to go down to the court, and it's kind of like he was saying one time, like he wanted to look this in the face. He wanted to look him in the face because we like
And that was so ironic that the
when
universe granted me that.
because we went to court and they was canceling the court date, so we had to go in the office and talk to the detectives and stuff. And so this is a small county, and
Mm-hmm.
so like the door we had to go to was right there, and we were all at the door. Now it's a long hallway that goes that way, and he said, there he go right there. And when we turned around to look where Quincy was looking, he was looking at us. He was the doorway where they hold the people. He just
Mm-hmm.
happened to be sitting there. You could only see he was the only prisoner you could see. Everybody had the encounter. So me, him, and his sister's husband, because the dad and the sister they cannot deal with it. They couldn't go to court
Right.
or whatever. And so we basically just had to stare down, and I wanted to look him in the face too. And so, I just looked him in the face and shook my head, and he looked at Quincy in the face. And that was his first. He put his head down, but now during this time, he ain't been showing no remorse.
That was my next question, was whether or not Alex seems to show any remorse. So he doesn't seem to be remorseful for what he did.
He didn't. Then what happened when we finished coming into court, because it was so intense and stuff, they closed the door, with
Mm-hmm.
Sarah. Then when we came out the courthouse, because it's a little country town, they were walking him across the street, so he was dead in front of the car.
Yeah, we saw him again coming out, and
And Quincy was driving, and Quincy was like, I should, and then, it was like intense because he had the opportunity to run him over. And I'm thinking in my head, oh my God. And,
Right.
but me and his sister's husband looked at him, and I was thinking it, but his sister husband said it, and this time you could look in his face, and it's like his face kind of crumbled, not that look that you see in the photos, almost like he was about to cry.
Mm. Wow.
So that, I think that's the only time. So we, like it's fresh, we still have to go to court and stuff, so we don't know. They said we don't know what he's thinking. Nobody's really talked to him.
Well, now let me say this. So, how do the rest? I know you said your father and your sister can't deal with him right now and couldn't go to court and all of that. But how are the rest of the family members? How do they um feel about Quincy? I know, of course, they're upset, but do they blame this more so on his mental health issues, or do they feel like he at some point knew what he was doing?
I don't think
My
no.
my opinion. I mean, I think I don't know. I mean, I think it is a little bit of both. I think he had mental issues somewhat, but I think he was aware of what he was doing.
Because of what his actions afterwards. That his actions afterwards is what they were saying. Like, yeah, you got mental health issues, but you tried to hide what you did, so you knew that you did something wrong. But the other family members, it's really hard because she had other sisters. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's older. Her mom and them. Nobody is really saying much. All the family's hurt, and then after that they had another death, so they had a so the family is just kind of in emotion in motion, so nobody's really saying anything, they just dealing with it, if you get what I'm saying. Cope.
Right.
Everybody coping is kind of like just so like a shock, so everybody just sitting around and talking, but nobody's really saying anything about Alex. I know one family member said that they're angry with them. They love them because it's like it's different. You can hate somebody, you could want to hate somebody, but at the end of the day, it's still their brother,
Right.
Right.
their little brother that they, so it's a hard feeling.
I can imagine. I can
It's
imagine.
like you lost two people. You know.
Right. And
So
this has to be very difficult for your father, especially
Yeah,
to deal with.
yes,
yeah.
that's yeah. He's very
And
very
he had just had quadruple heart bypass.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean,
Wow.
literally, what, a month before this?
yeah.
Literally
Like
a month before this.
Oh, that
And
is
so his
awful.
mom was there with him day in, day out. And
Mm,
day
mm,
in, day
mm.
out, they've been together. So his dad is, that's why it was so hard with us doing the interview, trying to help his dad. Is like his
Right.
life change. She was like, what we figured out, she the queen of
she was
everything.
a wrap.
She is the queen handling just everything. And then they say,
Mm-hmm.
they are what you would want as a black couple when they say so much.
Right. So she was basically like the glue holding the family together.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, she was.
Wow. So why do you think that most of our people, I know we talked about stigma and things like that, but let me rephrase the question. Do you think that when families experience, in our community, that is, when they experience um, situations like this, why do you think they likely don't want to come forward and speak about it? Not just because of the stigma, but do you think maybe it's because, they don't want to know that, they don't want people to know that um, there was mental health issues in their family, because sometimes mental health issues are actually hereditary. Sometimes there's a history of it in the family. So when people in our community don't want to discuss these types of situations, do you think it's because of not just the stigma of it, but the fact that they feel people may prejudge them and think that this is something, ongoing, or something that is hereditary with them?
Uh, yeah, it could be that. I mean, some people could feel that way, but
I think so. I think so because I dealt with my son, and like I said, we both dealing with my son sitting in prison every day. And a lot of people don't want to deal with it because during these times we've had conversations and stuff, and you want to think like, well, what side of the family did it come from? We think of
Mm-hmm.
ignorant stuff when it can be anywhere.
right.
Like,
Right.
me and him are raised in two completely different backgrounds. I'm from Bronx,
Mm-hmm.
New York. I was there during the crack era. His family is from down here, down south, and they were raised
Mm-hmm.
with mothers, fathers, grandfathers. They families been together
Close knit
years,
family.
giving everything, and we both deal
Mm-hmm.
with people who have very extreme mental health issues. So a
Hmm.
lot of black families, I guess we look upon, being black in America is already hard.
Right.
We want to wear
Exactly.
the styles. That's why we spend so much money trying to look like nothing is wrong with us.
Right. And I think in some cases, many times we don't recognize that it's mental health issues. We'll just say, okay, other persons, they're just going through something.
Exactly.
Like you all said in the beginning, you thought he was having relationship issues and that's why he was acting different or
Hmm.
whatever. And so that things like that, I believe, are often the case in our community. I think that's often the case. I'm going
Yeah.
to put Alex's picture up on the screen for my viewers to see. And Quincy, you and Alex look a lot alike. Look a lot alike. It's very,
Wait.
very sad and very unfortunate this has happened. Now, what exactly did they charge Alex with? Was it premeditated? Was it second degree?
We
They
don't know
still
yet.
doing it.
You don't know yet. Okay,
We're
so
gonna not
We
know
can't.
until May after the grand jury.
okay,
So right
okay.
now they're doing all the evidence and putting everything together and stuff. So where we won't know until May. They said after
So
it goes.
okay, now was there anyone else in the residence when this occurred, or was it just Alex and your mother there?
You want me to?
Um,
His dad was on the outside. The thing is, when you
Mm-hmm.
ask what happened that day when his dad talks, he said they had a good day. They spent that whole day together riding around. He had an aunt that had passed. We had just went to a funeral.
Mm-hmm.
And that was
Wow.
her first cousin. And they went by and she was helping her cousin's husband, which is his dad's cousin too. Like
Mm-hmm.
so they had a good day, and his dad was saying that they spent time. They stopped by Alice and whatever. When they got home, they were both in the backyard because she has her gardens. If anybody look at my videos on Straight No Chase with the Queen,
Mm-hmm.
she never wanted me to film her. We were supposed to do filming and gardening, teaching her stuff for the micronation, and so she's usually out there with the plants. They usually
Mm-hmm.
outside, but he said it was only like 15 minutes, no more than 20 minutes. She went in the house and he was still outside. So he's the one that came in the house and found her.
Wow. That
Yeah.
is awful. Well, yeah, that really has to be hard. And you already were going through a grieving process because of the aunt. Very unfortunate.
Yeah.
So if there was if there was any advice or anything you could say, Quincy specifically, and then Tina, I'll let you answer the same
Mhm.
question. Anything that you could say to people who may feel that they have a loved one who's experiencing some type of mental health issues, what kind of advice would you give them?
my advice would be this: um, try to get them help, but there's limited resources. But the main thing is to protect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, look for the signs. If the signs there, don't ignore them. You know what I'm saying? And if
Right.
there's any kind of aggression or signs like those are real signs that you need to look at. Any type of aggression, no matter when it is. I mean, and and
Mm-hmm.
just protect yourself. That's
Right.
basically
Absolutely.
part of what I wanted to say to people, that if you're affiliated or any family members that you know of that has mental health issues, of course you want the best for them. You want them to try to get help, but you also got to realize this. You got to protect yourself.
That's right. That's right. And the person who needs the help has to want the help for
Right,
themselves.
right.
And I find in cases that I've studied and in cases of people that I've known,
Hmm.
families that I've known that go through this with relatives, very often the people don't seem to think that they need any help.
That's it. That's one of
And
the
that was
main.
Yeah.
him.
That's one of the main
Mm-hmm.
reasons. And how can you give a person that don't think they're sick,
Exactly.
Right.
give them medicine and
Medicine.
expect them to take it
And
Right.
that's what we're saying.
unsupervised?
That's right. Because they're feeling like it's nothing wrong, and then they develop resentment towards the
Right,
family members who
right,
are saying and telling them that they need help. So
right.
it's very hard to intervene when you have someone that feels that way.
And they feel that the way they act is normal.
Right.
You know, that's one of the big things that, you know, they fail to accept that, you know, your
Mm-hmm.
behavior, the way you're acting is not normal.
Hmm.
Right. Now, Tina, what would you give? What type of advice would you give to someone who was experiencing something like this in their family?
The same advice. I would the same advice. Like you watch out, but you gotta protect yourself because it was times my son.
Perfect example with her, when me and her met. I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
I
she
try
took
to
care of
tell
herself,
everybody.
and
I would.
she would call the police or whatever, and that used to bother me.
They didn't like to call the
I'd be
police
like,
and be,
why are you calling them? Until
Mm-hmm.
as time went on,
and I told him about
I was
his
like,
brother.
I was like, yeah, you need to call the police.
Because and you
Right.
know who I am, Queen, and everybody
Mm-hmm.
know I don't like the police and I hate it. And when I used to tell him, I said, you know what I stand for, and I used to be so mad with my son and his brother. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
stand for. Now you got me out here calling the police because I did everything for my son. I
Right.
would do everything. Alex had a whole family. My family thought they basically used to get mad at me and in the younger years saying that I just wanted him to get a check. I was trying to do this and that, and I
Mm-hmm.
was looked upon like I was doing something wrong.
Wow. And that again goes back to the stigma. They don't want to accept people in our community very often, even when the signs are there, even when
Right.
the parents or the immediate family are saying,
Hmm.
look, there's a problem here. They don't want to believe it. They'd rather say, oh, you're just trying to make him, you're just trying to pretend he's crazy. You're just trying to act like something's wrong so you can get a check. There's nothing wrong with him. And that is just another form of denial. That's what that
Hmm.
is. That is deflection because they
Exactly.
don't want to face the issues. And here's the thing: often because many times, like I said, it is hereditary. So they feel like if something's wrong with this person, they have mental health issues. Well, maybe I'm going to have mental health issues later on, or maybe my kids may develop it. So they don't want to face that, and they definitely don't want people saying, people, neighbors, friends, co-workers or whatever, whispering about these types of situations. So they just want to sweep it under the rug, act like everything's fine. You're the problem. You're just trying to paint a narrative because you're trying to, get some type of check or something. And that's another big issue
And
in our community.
can I
Sure.
say this?
Mm-hmm.
Because there are loud mental health people and there are quiet ones. It happens all the time. You see all these deaths. You see
Mm-hmm.
these young guys out here shooting and killing each other,
Mm-hmm.
and then we call it black on black crime. A lot of these young kids have PTSD. That's a mental health issue.
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
because they won't acknowledge that black people have PTSD, we are seeing more and more deaths.
You
Alex
are
and my son are
absolutely
just
right.
loud with it. It's a lot of people suffering mental health quietly.
That's right.
Nobody don't want to think of it, but I had to take a stand no matter how much. And I told his dad, I was like, you don't notice that something is not right? And I started taking it to protect myself. And I
Mm-hmm.
did tell Quincy them, I was like, something is wrong and it's going to get worse as it goes on. And it starts off doing this and that, and then when it starts getting violent and stuff, and then you gotta just face the truth and stop. Don't be embarrassed because
Right.
the whole world is stressed.
That's right.
The whole And it don't matter if it's hereditary or not. Look at where we came from as melanated people.
That's
Look at
right.
our backgrounds. Stop
Mm-hmm.
making it seem like they want to call us the strong black woman, the strong black man, and we are dying on the inside. So you're gonna have mental health issues.
That's right.
It's time to face it, say it, and be okay with it.
That's
Get
right.
help. Just
Yes.
because you're not out here acting crazy doesn't mean that you don't have mental health issues.
That's right. Because, and in fact, I was speaking with someone just a couple of days ago whose son is going through something, suffering from mental health issues due to a traumatic experience that happened to him
Mhm.
like 5 years ago. And that's more so what you describe as the person who suffers in silence and the person who's quiet about it. That's what he does. He
Right.
isolates himself from others. He has very low self esteem. He talks to himself. I think that he also suffers from hallucinations, from what she was telling me, and things like that. And these are all signs of someone who's definitely suffering from mental health issues. But, as we said, people want to sweep it under the rug and call it something other than exactly what it is.
Exactly. excuse me, she had
Bless
to
you.
be careful because when my son would be in his thing, it was so many nights I couldn't get sleep. There's so many nights he couldn't get sleep because we don't know. You shake. You don't know when you get phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
Then I want him here. Then when he's out, I was
Right.
scared. You scared 24/7
Right.
because you get the call. I'm always grabbing my phone in the middle of the night because I've had calls. My son done went missing or something, or
Mm-hmm.
his brother done did something. That's just, living with mental health is torment every day. And then you want them there, but then you scared. You can't be around them 24/7, and then they in their place. You don't know what they're out there doing, or if they run into somebody that's
Exactly.
gonna
Right.
hurt them. Mental health don't just affect the person who has mental health. It
Right.
really affects the
The whole
family.
family,
That's
the whole
right. The people
environment. It affects
around
the
them.
whole environment.
Yes.
That's right. And then you sometimes fear for your safety because you never know
Hmm.
when they're going to become violent or combative. If they're just going to snap. You just never know. And then, like you said, when they're away from home, you don't know if someone's going to say or do something to set them off, or if they're just going
Hmm.
to snap on
Right.
somebody. So it can be very taxing on the mind, and that can affect your own mental health.
Yes,
From
it
just
It
being
does.
does.
stressed.
It
Yes,
You
does.
have no peace.
With all
that's
of this, the
right.
family is going to have to get therapy. We admitting that
Yes,
he is. We every even it affect my family. My mom is like crying all the time and stuff because it really this with it brought an eye opener of that hidden like don't want to admit stuff. But now a lot of people are saying like I'm gonna go see a therapist. I'm gonna
hmm,
go this. And the problem with seeing a therapist out there, there's not a lot of black therapists. That's just the only
right.
problem that we run into. But Queen, we got the grandchildren running in now.
Okay, that's okay. Well, I was about to close out. I was about to close out anyway. But I want to thank you all for coming on here and sharing your story. It's very insightful, and
Mason,
people do
hold
need
on,
to hear
Queen.
about this.
Yes.
So, with that all being said, beloveds, I really appreciate you all. And I wish you all the best. And again, I send my condolences. And I think it's wonderful that you're going to receive therapy as a family because you do need to talk about what you're going through and what you've had to deal with.
Yes. And we're going
Okay.
to be talking about it more. And then, we have an online event coming on April the 8th, and we're going to talk
Okay.
about more mental health. So we're going to really be trying to do something, not just let this affect, but he wants to do something for his mom to keep this going. So we
Right.
appreciate you, Queen.
Oh, absolutely. And I appreciate you all. So, with that all being said, I'm going to go ahead and close out. And I want to thank you all again. And
Thank
I'll be
you.
talking to you later. Okay, beloved?
Okay. You leave. You go.
Okay.
Okay, baby.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
Okay. Well, as I said, I see the grandkids are there, but I was about to conclude anyway. I want to thank you, Quincy, for being open and honest about your situation and for sharing your story with people. I'm sure that someone somewhere can benefit from this information that you all have given.
Thank you for
Okay.
allowing us to use your platform.
Yes, absolutely. And so, again, I wish you all the best and I send you my condolences and I will talk to you all later.
Okay. Bye, bye, Queen.
All right. Peace.
In order for you and me to devise some kind of method or strategy to offset some of the events or a repetition of the events that have taken place here in Los Angeles recently, we have to go to the root. We have to go to the cause. Dealing with the condition itself is not enough.
Dear Mr. Massa, I'm just trying to mind my own business. What's the matter? It's just another day, another black king captured. I'm about to lose my brain, stuck inside this ghetto rapture. I got a lot of smoke. If you want it, you can have it. They want a hat trick, but this is black girl magic. Ain't talking about the kind that'll make you disappear, but I'm talking about the power of the melanin within. Ain't looking for trouble, but I'ma say this one time. I put two dukes up if you try to touch mine. We still want justice for Tamir and Trayvon. You say you don't see color, but racism ain't blind. They targeting little kids whose skin look just like mine. So I'm paranoid, it's a war zone outside. And I'm a black queen, so if you ask me to step out of my car, you gon' have to snatch me. Cause I ain't going no damn well. Had to spend my whole life living unfair. Ancestors got my back and they right here. You can never understand, it's a nightmare. Living in my black shoes by the black rules. You can keep your handshake, I don't dap coons. The white man will go nuts if he cash you. But you all on his side like a damn fool. Make it make sense.
We are oppressed.
Queen.
We are exploited. We are downtrodden.
Make it make
Queen.
We are
sense.
denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
Ahmadiyyah.
So the only way we're going to get some of this
Ahmadiyyah.
oppression and exploitation
Queen.
away from us or aside from us is come together
Queen.
against the common enemy. Who taught you to hate the texture of your
Ahmadiyyah.
hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin?
Ahmadiyyah.
Parents, pay attention to the books, the school system, even to your little children. Lies mixed with wisdom. His skin too bright, so he was blind to the prison. My skin just right, so I collide with division. You trying to pray to God, but we tired of religion. No savior saving, we got to save our savings. We used to pay miss, how we gon' make the slave rich? But who's to blame, and tell me why you complaining? We need a team effort just to rule the nation. Like a bad relationship, missing communication. We missing moderation. They're trying to get a poison to my population. No reparations, I'm getting tired of Satan.
We are oppressed.
I'm
Queen.
getting tired of waiting.
We are downtrodden.
Queen.
We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
Ahmadiyyah.
So the only way we're going to get some of this
Ahmadiyyah.
oppression and